Welcome to the Masculinity Unmasked podcast with hosts Greg Stein, Max Wilson, and Linda Tilson.
Okay. Hello and welcome everyone to the Masculinity Unmasked podcast, the fortnightly conversation which delves deep into the issues impacting men today. We're here to have the conversations you might not be having elsewhere. Honest, open, sometimes uncomfortable, but always important. The title for today's episode is Awakening Human Potential Through Flow State. And I'm very lucky to be joined by AK, who is a flow state master coach. So AK, thanks very much for joining us today. Do you want to start by sharing a little bit about your story and the work that you do?
Hi, thank you for having me. So, my nickname actually is AK, but my full name is Anze. I am originally from Slovenia, born and raised. For those that don't know, this is like a small, tiny country of 2 million people right next to Italy. And well, pretty much my whole life revolved around the game of basketball. I started playing at a very early age. I played for about 20 years in over 10 different countries, as well as one of them was also United States. And yeah, then, I'm still pretty young, I think. I'm 32 and I still felt like I have many years in a game of basketball left as a player. But life called me in a different direction. Well, how life has plans for us. So yeah, and then one day, about a year ago, I decided to step away from the game. I retired as a player, and then I got called to serve other players. Okay, so I'm still in the realm of basketball. It's just as a flow state master coach. Now I work with basketball players worldwide from college all the way to the NBA.
Thank you for sharing. And my very first question right out of the gate is, what part of your identity did you have to let go of when you stepped off the court professionally and into coaching?
I like that. That actually relates to more so the identity I learned through the game of basketball. Okay, so I wouldn't say that I had to let go of something when I stepped away from the game. It was perhaps, yes, you are identifying yourself as a basketball player. Many times, like I guess for me, I was not attached to it. So I didn't have to let go of it much when I stepped away from the game. It was not easy. Obviously, basketball has been ingrained in me ever since I was a kid, but it was more so the identity that I let go while I was playing. Okay. So, and what I mean by that is when it comes to identity, many players are attached to what they can get out of the game. Okay. So the identity of, like going after results, going after money, going after fame, status, things of that sort that actually shape our identity. And, if we don't get them, then we are either disappointed or we look at ourselves as unsuccessful, and many basketball players, and it was my own journey too, in a way where like I was attached to those things. That was a part of my identity. If I didn't get that or if I didn't play well as a basketball player, I would lose my self-esteem. And I had to learn that to let go of those things and truly find the reason why I play the game, truly find the reason in a rock solid identity that is like grounded, and that for me was just plain simple, love of the game, just loving the game unconditionally and literally not needing anything else but the game itself. So, like for me, all those other things were not important anymore. It's just pure love of the game.
And so is that like one of the very first steps about getting into your flow is that detachment from being so tightly wound to reaching those milestones for success, fame, money, performance, all of those things, would you say?
Yeah, so you just learn that these things are not important because you look deeply into yourself, you look deeply into your soul, and all you have to do is just follow the things you're curious about, follow what you're passionate about, and if you do those things from a place of love, and then you just surrender whatever comes to you, the results, the money, the all the other things I mentioned, if they come to you, great. it's not the reason, it's not your identity, you know?
Absolutely, it's not your identity, it's only one piece of the whole person that you are, and so I'm curious, when you're guiding athletes and they are very much wanting to control the outcomes rather than surrendering into flow, what is that conversation that you have with them to bring them back into what's important and what's not important?
Well, you said an interesting word there, control, right? So we have this illusion that we're in control. Okay. So the thing is that when it comes to the control, why do we control? Because we are afraid. Okay. So we try to control the outcomes, control the results, control the game of basketball, control other people, control ourselves in a way because we are afraid, you know? So at the core of control is fear. So, I go into the depth with players about those reasons, why they're afraid. And truly, as the great Kobe Bryant used to say, unpack those fears, right? So if you have a certain fear, like, you go into it, you ask yourself why you're truly afraid of, what would happen if that fear actually does come true, and then, so on and so on. Like there's different methods and things I do with my players where then we realize that, that's not really important, or that fear shouldn't control me, shouldn't consume me. So, and then, just learn how to deal with it, how to channel it, and how to let go of it.
Excellent. You said something that, a lot of people don't always wanna put out there, is that we're fearful of things. So getting into what's important about that fear or what's important about that outcome you're looking for, it helps you to unpack the fear that you have behind it. And so when you face it, then you could pivot, you can make changes, you can, do things that will bring you out of the fear and facing it and then moving forward. And so it empowers you to be able to do that. And you know a lot of people are so afraid of that thing that might happen or not happen that they're not willing to face those things. So, I really like this concept about, how do we let go of that control? And, I want you to talk more about that flow state so people can kind of have a contrast between control and flow, what it is and what it isn't.
Okay. Okay. So flow state essentially is the optimal state of human performance or just human beings itself. All right. So first flow state, if I say it with more simple words, I would say it's that ability to stay in the present moment. Okay. So you are completely immersed, you are locked in, you're focused, you are, just completely present. I mean, essentially, when you are in this like optimal state of human performance, you are in the flow state. And that means you are completely, fully present, state of no mind. You are not thinking, you are just being present. And it's the most freeing, the most fulfilling, and the most amazing feeling in the world because you're just like, you're not in your head and you're just so freaking present, with everything that's going around you. And no matter what, whether in my scenario, the game of basketball or life throws at you, you're able to maneuver through it.
And I love what you're sharing because a lot of people are like, "Well, what does it mean to be in the present?" And you simply stated that, you're not in the past, you're not too far in the future. You're taking care of addressing, facing what's in front of you. And when you do that, that is where you feel the freedom. That is where you are not outcome focused and you're not also living in regrets from the past. And so that is why there's so much to be said about staying in the present. And personally, I found that when you can find that present state, it is freeing. And we just don't know how to get there. But once we do and we recognize and feel into that, then we're like, well, why were we focused so much on the things that happened in the past that we can't change? We can learn and we can apply new things. And why are we thinking so far in the future? Because we don't even know how everything is going to play out anyway. And so, again, that human desire to want to control places, circumstances, and everything. And when we don't want to do that anymore, we're actually more fulfilled, just as you've said.
Mm, mm. Yes, like there's I call like 8 different pieces to this puzzle. right? In order for you to achieve this, or it's an ever going thing. Like you're always learning, you're always mastering it, and the more you do it, the better you become at it. Just like anything else, just like when you go to the gym at the start, when you do it, like it takes time for you to truly see results. You're not going to see results in one day. So this is no different. And there is like, you have to build a good foundation. You have to learn how to truly train the presence, how to surrender, that's a part of it, how to deal with your emotions, because many times that gets in the way, how to go about your identity, the growth, the success, the mastery of it all, and the leadership. Like there's all this different pieces of the puzzle that are all important, that are equally important for you to truly master that flow state.
I want to take us on a path because you talked about emotions and the things that people feel. And so I'm curious, with sports, with anything where you're performing, there's always that jockeying back and forth between self-doubt and your ego that are driving things. And so what would you say would be the one that's the most dangerous, being in self-doubt or being in a place of ego?
Well, they are both uh kind of heavy on you, right? They're both things that weigh heavy on us. So I wouldn't say one is better or the other. It's like when you are in those situation of self-doubt or ego, it's many times it's tough to kind of find your way out of it, because many times if you are blinded by it, you can't even see what's in front of you, that awareness. So, I mean, what helped me was actually I surrounded myself with people who were able to show me the truth, who are able to show me the awareness of it all. Because the first step is the whole awareness of it. And yeah, I've been very blessed because I really have had and have good support system. Like because at the end of the day, you are a sum of the top 5 people you surround yourself with. So, it's really, really important that you surround yourself with people that are, if possible, better at everything than you are.
Agree with you, Kate. And when people that you're surrounded with are actually better than you, then they can become those mirrors. They can bring that awareness, and they can show the way. And they're willing to, and a lot of times, if you ask them to share some of the lessons that they've learned, and yeah, some of the best mirrors are those people that you're talking about that you spend your time with, and
Mm,
the converse is true. And you know I was thinking about life in general because that's what I do. I like to think about it, and there's so many like thoughts and feelings and things that are going on, all of this external, and so bringing everything back to the internal self and trying to figure out how to I guess navigate the landscape that we're in and not allow the feelings even to flood or overwhelm us. Because I see a
mm.
lot of overwhelm that can occur. And when that happens, it's like, well, how does a person work with that?
That's a great question. And that goes the same for basketball players or anyone else on the planet. The trick is to not resist uncomfortable emotions and not attach to the goody goody emotions. Okay. I call them light and shadow emotions, because we often have this notion that one emotions are positive and other are negative. But I disagree with that terminology because all the emotions are emotions. They are energy in motion. So there's no good or bad ones. It's just a matter of some feel good and some don't, right? So again, the trick is to not resist those uncomfortable ones like fear, anger, jealousy. What else can I think of here? Well, you get the idea. But on the other hand, when you are happy, when you are, you feel joy, when you feel freedom, when you feel excitement, the trick here is to not attach to those emotions because emotions are not to be thought about, they are to be experienced. Okay. That's what emotions are there for us to experience them, all spectra of them. Okay. It's like the color palette of life. Sometimes you are happy, sometimes you're not. Again, the trick is to embrace, accept, and experience them all.
I love that. Embrace and experience all of them. That is yes. I like that you've shared this. You know why? Because I hear so many people talking about how, I'm experiencing this high, all these great accomplishments are happening. And then today, back to normal. It's just a normal day. It's low and, I'm not feeling much. And so, and for you to share that people should get used to and embrace that you're going to feel all of the whole range and that you're not always you're not always aspiring to be that elevated, happy, on fire state any more than you should feel like that you're at this low state and that it's bad because all of the feelings are signals that tell you a lot about what's going on in your life. And, sometimes a normal day is a great day. You don't have to have all of these things. And so I just find that a lot of people get stuck in trying to figure out how they're supposed to feel and be and aspire to be on one end of the spectrum and avoid the other. When you try to avoid or you try to be at the top of the spectrum, that's when you're not in freedom and you feel trapped and caged and you can't be who you are. You just can't
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
given to that state.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You have to feel and embrace them all. And at the same time, emotions make you, well, at least me, it makes me feel alive. So they're a powerful thing. And once you learn how not to be consumed by them, right? So that's the important part. Like you don't want to be consumed by them, but you want to accept, embrace them, and channel them into whatever the next thing happens. Like whether when you're a basketball player, emotions are the best thing ever because they are like an extra battery, right? It gives you energy. So if you learn how to channel them, right, then you actually have a cheat code because you have more energy because of this. That's where you see players who get perhaps for a second angry and they get like filled with those emotions. Like some get even worse, so they spiral out of control, and others are able to channel it. And it's the same with like daily life, right? When you're talking to somebody and they say something that triggers you, that brings up all these emotions, right? You can literally get consumed in these emotions and just lash out on that person and go crazy. Or you can, use that kind of energy and channel it into the right words or whatever the thing is you need to do in that particular moment.
I couldn't agree more with everything that you just said there. And,
Mm.
I'm also kind of wondering, does peak performance meet spirituality? Can you tell me more about that? Because I know you have some thoughts on it.
Well, the simple answer is absolutely, because like think about it that way. So it doesn't matter whether you play basketball or not, or any other sport, or if you don't play sports, whatever. The thing is that we are not a one layer type of being, right? So the problem in sports generally is that we look at ourselves as the body and we train the heck out of it. So we do everything possibly can to train our body. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it's also a problem in a way because it's just one sided, So you have to see yourself as energy, right? Physical body is one part of it. Then you have the mind, which is the mental side of things. Then you have the heart, the emotional side of things. And you have a soul, right? A soul, like a deep, yeah, soul where, the center of everything, where it is the spiritual side of it. So my focus is on mental, emotional, and spiritual side of the game and life, of course.
Of course,
Life is one big game.
it
And
is.
sometimes I think we take it too seriously.
Well, we do take it too seriously. That is very true. We get competitive and yes. So I'm curious, at this point in our conversation about the toughest mirror you've ever had to hold up for a client and how they responded.
Toughest mirror
Mirror,
I
yes.
ever had to hold up for a client and how they responded. That's a big one. That's a good one. And what came to me was when I was still a player, my coach. Okay. And it actually reflects very much into, what I do these days with my players because I do hold a mirror for them. But I actually want to share a story of my coach who was a mirror for me. Okay. So one day I was playing in this country as a foreigner, right? And as a foreigner, you are, expected to be the best. Okay. Because if you're a foreign player in a certain country, you have to be the leader, you have to score a lot of points, you have to dominate, you have to bring winning to the team. to winning culture, to the club. Like that's your job. That's what you're paid for. You're paid good money because you're expected to do those things. That's how it is in the world of professional sports, and in my case, and also I want to add, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, right, then they can cut you, right? So literally, like they can get rid of you. They will find another player to replace you. And in my scenario, yeah, I had this coach who, for some reason, we were very bad at the communication part of things. And when the season came, I thought I'm going to be one of the main players, and I found myself on the bench, right? And the thing was that I just couldn't figure out what he wanted from me, and because the thing was that no matter what he did and just the way he was as a human being was completely opposite of who I was. All the values, all the energy, just everything was different. Like we were so different. We got triggered. I triggered him, he triggered me, and I resisted that for a long time, until I figure out how to embrace that, until I figure out how to accept that, until I learned that, there is a bunch of bottled up emotions within me that he's showing me that I didn't face. I was in such a bad mental state back then that, he was holding a mirror because he was the one showing me what I still need to work on. And once I embraced that, I didn't run away. I thought about running away, but I didn't. I embraced it. I got my first mentor, started working on those things, and accepted him. And sooner or later, brought that compassion, brought that understanding of another human being and appreciation of what he showed me I still have to work on. I went from not playing at all to being one of the best shooters, not in my team, but in the whole country. So yeah, that coach held the mirror for me. It was the toughest thing ever, but also I embraced it and it made me who I am today, and also the awareness I've gained with it.
Thank you for sharing that powerful story. It really is true when you have someone in your life that's willing to say what others won't say. And for you to come to that place where I'm not going to run away, I'm going to face this, I'm going to try and figure out why I'm being triggered and the values that are at stake here. Because you said he's a polar opposite. And so it sounds like as you got to find out more about how your values could meet somewhere with his values and find that commonality, to find that, like, how can I look at this differently? What am I missing? That's the point where you came in and you got out of your own way. You were in your way of being able to play at your best performance in the way that you were meant to. But
Mm.
as long as you're resisting that, and you were being closed from listening to another perspective, even though it was different than yours, then you weren't able to get there as quick and fast. And I can see in coaching, I would say that there are people out there that may come to you for coaching and they want to hear all these things that you can put on the table that they can grab onto and they can take and go run with it. And there might be those conversations where you're going to share these observations that they're not going to want to necessarily see. And for them to receive what you're going to share as that mirror, it's going to take that trust, that compassion as a coach to be able to be in that place. Personally, I've had people tell me, Linda, you're better than this. Linda, you're standing in your own way of being that great person, that leader that you are, but you need to take a look at maybe coming in differently. And it hurts, to have somebody tell you that. But you know what? That's been my greatest source of strength, is having somebody be that mirror that would say the things that most people wouldn't say.
100%.
All right. So we're at the point in our interview today, our conversation, where we love to have our guests share something practical, share something that can be a key takeaway. What would you love to share for our listeners today?
Well, the first thing that came to me, and that's usually what I go for, is one of the big tools that I'm still using today, and I've been using it for many years. Actually, I'll share two. So, one that's really crucial that I feel like every single person should be doing it one way or another. There's many different ways you can go about it, but at least to start and, build on it, explore your own journey with it, is meditation. And meditation is not just, just you sitting by yourself Well, it is you sitting by yourself, but there's different ways you can go about it. You can make it more like a conversation, with life, with the universe, with God, whatever you want to call it. Or you can have a conversation with yourself, or just literally be there listening to guided meditation, or just sit in the quiet with yourself, but any form of walking meditations are also a great way in nature. So meditation is one of those things I call a must to build a foundation. Okay, so that is one thing. The second thing that I feel like is super powerful for literally everyone, especially people who are super in the shoes all the time. Okay, so that are always in their shoes, is called earthing or grounding. Okay, earthing or grounding is a process of connecting with the Mother Earth. That's plain simple explanation. Takes 10, 15 minutes a day. Go outside, whether you touch it with your hand or your feet, on the grass, on the soil, on the rocks, in the nature, in the forest, whatever, as long as you're touching it, skin to soil, that's earthing. And that's like us connecting with the energy of Mother Nature. And I feel like those two things would probably get rid of 90% of, you know, I guess, illnesses that people go through this day, whether those are more physical or mental, but that's like, yeah, a big deal.
Those are excellent tips, by the way. They're simple. Anyone can do them. You don't need anything special, and it only takes a few minutes. And so there's no blueprint that you have to follow. They're
Mm.
that easy. So thank you for sharing that. We're also at the time in our conversation today where we've been delving into several key topics, and it's been really great, to hear your thoughts. And AK, where else could people find you if they want to reach out to you? What is the best way?
Okay, obviously, you can search for my name on social medias, but what I've truly built, which is very recent in a way. I've been working on it for years. I founded the Hoopers Awakening, which is where flow state mastery meets basketball. Okay. And if you type in the Hoopers Awakening in Google, you can see the website, you can see everything about it, you can see all the social medias and everything. And, yeah, that's where you can look for things. And, I'm really excited about it because it is bringing the most committed basketball players in the world together in one place. It is the course that the world of basketball has never seen before. Something like this has never been out there. And I'm super pumped and excited about it because it's been magical so far, so ever since we've put it out. And yeah, the Hoopers Awakening.
Thank you. I'm super excited that we get to share that with our listeners. So if anyone has loved and resonated with the topic that we've had today, or you have some ideas that you would like us to bring up in a future conversation, do get in touch with us. We always love to hear from you. And as always, all of the great details are in our show notes. And so that's it from me until next time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Masculinity Unmasked podcast. We're so glad you're here. If this episode resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you're really feeling the love, we'll be grateful if you could leave us a 5-star rating. It helps more people find the show. Thanks very much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.